guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're gonna talk about the big college scandal. I've gotten a couple of messages asking me to talk about it. I already have goosebumps because this topic has me really fucking pissed off. Part of that is because it relates to me very personally, which I'll explain in a second. However, I just wanted to let you know, and I'm sorry if this is annoying, but I dropped new merch. This one says new day, new disappointment, but there are a bunch of other styles on my merch website, long sleeve, short sleeve, hoodie, whatever. I'll link that down below. Let me give you a brief background of what happened in case you don't know. So essentially what happened is that there was a Yale dad who ended up letting the police know, almost by coincidence, that there was something of shady going on. There's this guy called Maury Tobin. So Tobin himself was actually being questioned about another situation which isn't really relevant to this. In order to obtain leniency, he told the authorities about this situation, the situation being the following. Mr. Tobin, who attended Yale University, told investigators that the head women's soccer coach at Yale had sought a bribe in return for getting his daughter into the Ivy League school. That tip led investigators to unravel a wide-ranging scheme in which dozens of wealthy parents allegedly paid a college consultant to facilitate cheating on entrance exams and falsifying student athletic profiles. It also involved allegedly bribing coaches at schools including the University of Southern California, Georgetown University, and Stanford University to take their children on as recruited athletes, a near guaranteed way of being accepted. To help investigators catch Yale women's soccer coach Rudy Meredith, Mr. Tobin wore a wire to a meeting in a Boston hotel room with Mr. Meredith in April of 2018. At the meeting, Mr. Meredith said he could designate Mr. Tobin's daughter as a recruit for the team in exchange for $450,000. So another thing that I'm going to say that we need to take into account is the scale of what has been found out. As I'm making this video right now, there are dozens of people being charged this week in connection with this case, which is a $25 million college admission scheme. $25 million. As of when I'm recording, they still haven't figured out everyone who is related to this, and they still haven't figured out if people actually graduated, which I'm gonna get into in a second. Side note, one of the most prominent names being brought up with this fraud case is Lori Loughlin, who is an actress who is famous for a sitcom in the 80s/90s called Full House. In that sitcom, she is seen as a very wholesome and overall a good person, which is just ironic if you ask me. She has a daughter named Olivia Jade, who apparently does YouTube. Wouldn't know because I literally only ever heard of her in relation to this case, never before. Anyway, I found an article that's claiming that they're essentially removing everything that Lori Loughlin did on the channel. I think it's Hallmark or one of those other cheesy ones. And Olivia Jade had a palette collaboration with Sephora that is now being removed. These two women are very prominent in this whole case, so I thought I'd let you know they are facing consequences. Lori Loughlin was also released on a $1 million bond. So obviously I'm not giving you the entire rundown of this situation because it's very messy and it would take a very long time to explain the entirety, but that's the basic gist of what's going on. In case you don't know, I have a bachelor's. I'm gonna be getting my master's at the end of this school year, so around May, June-ish, and this has me so pissed off. I can't even explain or express how pissed off this has me. And this is by no means a new problem. This problem has existed for a very long time. For a very long time, people were even accepted into schools because they were related to a certain family, and I think to some extent that still happens, but that's neither here nor there. What to me is the most scary thing about all of this, now of course I believe in meritocracy, of course I believe you should make your own way into a college. I don't think that's something of very debatable. Like, I think that is a popular and obvious rational opinion to say you work, you apply to a college, if you get in, you get in, if you don't get in, you don't get in, you try again, you do something, but you don't pay for it. I think that's very basic, and I think most of us can agree on that. As someone who has applied and been accepted to some and rejected from others, it makes me deeply frustrated to know that people who aren't even necessarily trying are getting into schools, and people who maybe just don't have a place at that school because they don't qualify are getting into schools. What bothers me is the amount of people whose place was taken from them. There's also this idea of legacy with certain schools that really bothers me, where, you know, as if your family has been going to that school for years and years and years, you're more likely to get in because, like, what, fucking 5 generations before you went to that school. And to be honest, that to me makes no sense, because if 5 generations went to a school, that's fine. You still need to make your way in. You know, like the first person who got in hopefully deserved to get in, and it should continue that way, or else there's no point of having any type of university. One aspect of this that I think is very personal to me is the fact that I was teaching English 101 last semester, so I was teaching freshman students at my university the basics of composition. So I saw students from a variety of socioeconomic backgrounds, of course, but some who couldn't even afford to buy the book for the class that was less than $20. And I saw them struggle, and I know how hard it was for them to get into the school. And it just makes me sad because I see these people who really went out of their way, people who didn't have the means to pay for the school, who are going out of their way to have 3 jobs, who are going out of their way to keep their grades at an A level so they can keep getting funding. I just saw firsthand how hard certain people are working, even like younger people of today, since, you know, like I'm 25, I'm not 18 anymore, so I don't exactly relate to what it's like being a freshman now. It just made me mad because I saw all sides of it. I saw it as me who went through all of this already and people who are doing this now, and it just disgusts me that someone would take it so for granted that they'd be like, I'm just gonna pay for my kid to get in and they'll figure it out. The other scary notion of this entire story is that we don't know much, and that makes me deeply uncomfortable and deeply scared, because some of these people could have already graduated with a degree they should not have.
Look, buddy, I know a lot about the law and various other lawyerings. I'm well educated, well versed. I know that situations like this, real estate wise, they're very complex.
Actually, they're pretty simple.
I don't know what all these payments include, if they include just getting in, or if you pay again, if that includes like passing classes or being given the degree without doing jack shit. And that's what scares me, because that means we might have lawyers out there who don't know what they're doing and just have the piece of paper. We might have people who can really affect people's lives, kind of wondering, you know, like if there are some people who are now well established who don't really have anything to back up their establishment, if that makes sense, and that really scares me. As someone who wants to be a professor, it makes me disconcerted and disgusted. Like I said, this has been going on for a long time, but when we find out who these people are, it's always a little bit more shocking, because the reality now has faces and we know who they are, and we know that they come off as good people potentially, but then we find out that they have a lot of skeletons that could get them locked up. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. I doubt there's gonna be that big of a variety of opinions, because this seems pretty direct to me, but definitely let me know. Check out the merch if you're interested, and thank you guys for watching. Thank you to my patrons, and let's get right into the fan art.